The Chicago Cubs are they back into playoff contention, and the White Sox falling deeper, deeper, and deeper into baseball hell. Goodness. In the Olympics, the USA men's basketball team and the women's basketball team are on the road to the gold medal in its events to the knockout round. We witnessed the greatest run in track and field in 100 meters men's track and field history. And we'll have a special edition of Old School TV Monday. That and a whole lot more as Second City Sports, the Monday edition starts right now. Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kingdom McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I'll be giving Lakina full powers to give you fools to be able to be a boot.
Toodles!
But before we begin, we must remind you guys Sports Zone Chicago live in the living color 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. It's just that simple. If you already have a Roku television, tap on the sports photo and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku television, but you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook, or your PC, or your Android, just hit up the Google Play Store, download that Roku TV app, and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
And we'll be providing you with some of the best in the first Monday of August here on Second City Sports. Of course, all the fun from Paris as records and surprises and an amazing finish in one of the premier events headline this weekend in the Summer Olympics. And also, too, of course, Old School TV Monday, time permitting. And, of course, are the Cubs? Could they be not? The Cubs are showing they're not dead yet. And the White Sox, well, they're breaking records, but for all the wrong reasons. But first, Sid, this is our beginning of our football power hour once again. It is that time of year. We'll recap what happened in Canton. Despite a 2.5-hour rain delay, give or take, but the ceremonies for the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2024 went on. Of course, your headline, of course, by former Bears Steve McMichael, Julius Peppers, Devin Hester. Also to the headlines on the others are Randy Gradishier, Andre Johnson, Dwight Freeney. Crap, I forgot the other guy's name. For everybody, yeah, but we'll get that. We'll get that in a second. But I said, I mean, just a really emotional moment for all the Hall of Famers on Saturday. So, did you watch the ceremonies, and what did you think?
Yes, I did via these YouTube streets, and we'll start out with Steve McMichael. Of course, part of my anger was before he got sick, he should have been in a long time ago.
Mhm.
He had the sacks. He had 91 and a half career sacks. Remember, the NFL did not count sacks as a statistic. Say that 5 times fast.
Tongue
Until
twister.
1982. But remember, we talked about it before. I believe it was top five all time in sacks when he retired following the 1994 season. Remember, he spent his last year with the Green Bay Packers after Day One said gave him the boot following the 93 season. But Steve McMichael was the anchor of that defensive line next to Dan Hampton, next to Richard Dean. You know all the other names on that Bears legendary
Mhm.
defense, and he did his job. He did it so well that he set up his other teammates. And I know his speech was cut short, obviously, because with the ALS, he cannot speak, unfortunately, anymore. His wife, Misty, has been there by his side, both on and off the camera. And his sister, Christy, read the speech, and I thought it was
Mhm.
a very good speech. I know if you notice, for the Hall of Fame, usually have the living members of the Pro Football
Mhm.
Hall of Fame sit on the stage. There was a few seats missing because the Bears Hall of Famers, like Mike Singletary, Richard Dent, and a couple others, they were back here in Chicago, and they presented Steve McMichael with the gold jacket at his home. And I thought it was even though it was short, it was a great speech. He thanked the Bears fans. He thanked the University of Texas where he played, and he thanked his wife and his beautiful daughter and the rest of his family. And you could tell even through the emotion that Michael's sister Kathy read that
Mhm.
speech. He touched everybody, and it was a beautiful moment. I almost shed a tear. I'm not saying that as a joke, but you could tell. We watched at least a lot of his career, Lakina, here in
Mhm.
Chicago, and you could tell that he was a big personality. Everybody was drawn to him. You had a lot of big personalities on that 85 Bears team back in the day. So he stood out among the rest. So, but his play basically did the talking. He just backed it up afterwards after he made the play. But it was a beautiful speech, and he deserved that honor. Like I said, I don't give a damn about popularity. I give a damn about the truth. And the truth is, he should have been in long time ago before he got sick.
Yeah, and my mom and I we were watching it because because she saw that manga was going in, and she's not a big sportsman. I told y'all that, but yeah,
Hmm.
she loves the '85 Bears. She named at least like half of them, so that's how how tuned in she is to that particular team and what a great personality that team was. And when Kathy, his Mongo's sister, read that speech, yeah, it did shed a tear. Like if you didn't get teary eyed, like you're not a really nice person personally, but because I can imagine if he had not gotten sick and he had got a chance to actually read the speech, knowing him, he
Hmm.
probably would have had a couple of swear words, I'm sure,
Yeah.
and a couple of swear words and such. But it would have been all in good fun, and just see Singletary and Dent and Jimbo Colbert and the rest of that some of the other ones, and we saw one of our some of our buddies out there. Of course, he mentioned, of course, our buddy Jared Payton.
Hmm.
Um, as he's kind of been like a godson for him the last few years. Also too, of course, if you saw like they kind of to the Bears social media credit, they live stream the ceremony, so they showed that, and it was a really sweet moment. And just so you saw, I know Missy's been very vocal for the last decade about Mongo getting in, and just a really great great speech, and just probably one of the better speeches. And to Jim Porter, who's the president of the Pro Football Hall of Fame over there in Canton, he kind of sort of like made all this happen. And they usually don't do this this is like a unique situation because we
Hmm.
saw what they usually do when guys have passed away, and sometimes they do a speech like they did last year, but sometimes they don't. But in this case, since Mongo wasn't able to do it, and because he can't talk or walk, but they did kind of do that, and you wonder if like if that situation ever happens again, you wonder, is this going to be a theme?
Yeah, and like you said, this was a unique situation. And like you said, the Pro Football Hall of Fame did the right thing, and you could tell that Steve McMichael was surrounded by support and love, not just from his teammates but from his family as well. And I want to recommend to you guys listening and watching us on YouTube, the Chicago Bears YouTube channel, along with NFL Films, did a special episode on their three Bears that are going into that went into the Hall of Fame. They did special episodes on the three players, and Steve Michael McMichaels was very special. Like, I want to walk you down memory lane. And remember back in the day, especially this is for our younger listeners and viewers. Remember back in the late '80s, early '90s, Steve McMichael did Sports Sunday with the
Mm-hmm.
retiree Mark Giangrego on Channel 5 here in Chicago, the local NBC affiliate for those of you scoring at home. Remember he did those Sunday night shows?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I remember.
It got a spoiler alert just a little bit, but they did mention that in that special episode they did about Steve McMichael talking about Chicago Bears. You can check out on the Chicago Bears official YouTube channel. But remember, Steve McMichael was the character, and he rarely talked about the game, but he really did some tricks, and he said some crazy things to Mark Gene Gorgo. They really went back and forth with this humorous but friendly canter. I remember trying to stay up or watching it, Lakina. Some Sundays I did miss because I had to go to bed, but on some Sunday nights I had to just to sneak up and
Mm-hmm.
watch at least a few minutes of that because you knew you were going to get great TV. And Dan Pompei, who's a Hall of Fame football writer within his own right, he does great stuff for 670 to score here in Chicago, and he's part of the athletic staff. And he said that it was must see TV on Sunday nights. And it was a must conversation around the water cooler the next day. Did you see what Stephen Michael said and did last night on Sports Sunday? Did you heard what he said? Did you see what he did? So this was all before social media, before the internet. He was a big star among all the stars among those great Bears teams in the '80s. So, and he did his job, and they talked about how his post football life, how he went into the WWE now in the
Mm-hmm.
WCW back then. I remember that he didn't stay with it unfortunately as long, but Ric Flair was in there too. He gave some great words about him. But I remember, I don't know if you remember this, Lakina, but he's now retired. But Corey McFerrin, this was
Mm-hmm.
1995, I believe. This was his first year at the NFL on Fox locally here in Chicago because remember, he came from Channel 2, the CBS
Mm-hmm.
affiliate, to do sports for Fox 32 in the '90s and, of course, in the 2000s before he did hard news to wrap up his career. You remember before Tom Waddle, folks, for you younger heads out there, before Tom Waddle, they had a circle of former Bear analysts for those Bear Sunday live local pregame shows. Steve and Michael
Mm-hmm.
did it for 1 year back in 1995. I don't know for whatever reason they didn't keep him, but he was great at that too during that year 1995. Of course, that year the Bears went 9-7, missed the playoffs. I remember McMichael being critical of that team, and what he said was right on because he played the game, he'd been through the trenches, and what you appreciate about Stephen Michael was his honesty, and not just because he was an outgoing guy, he loved the fans, but he was honest as well. He was our version of Charles Barkley before Charles Barkley.
Yeah, so definitely, and way overdoing, definitely deserving of the Hall of Fame enshrinement. So we'll talk. We'll talk about the rest of the Hall of Fame as well as others and their speeches as well, and who's eligible for next year. You're going to be quite surprised to see who's going to be up next year in their first year of eligibility. So, and also we'll talk about some other NFL stuff as well. A big, nice little contract and a reunion source for parts of Legion of Boom for the Bears opening regular season opponent, and a whole lot more. Like Keenan McGee, Cindy Brown, Second City Sports, Sports of Chicago. More Pro Football Hall of Fame and NFL talk coming up right after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago for this first Monday edition of the month of August. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter X and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kingdom McGee on the Twitter, X, and Kids again on IG.
We have less than 85 minutes left for this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us as we still talk, we still continue our Bears talk in the Pro Football Hall of Fame talk, the class of 2024. You can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, other Bears that came in the Hall, they're in the Hall of Fame. Devin Hester. Of course, it has. Of course, he's still the only person to have an opening kickoff to go for a touchdown in the Super Bowl. He played a little wide receiver as well. Definitely epitomized the kick return position, if you will. His mom introduced it, was just really cool because he didn't want to have to fight from his coaches and teammates and whatever. So it was pretty funny. But of course, played in Miami at the U in the mid 2000s. You saw that that great moment that he actually shouted out Lovie Smith, who was there. Of course, he was the one that kind of got him into going into doing the kickoff return and the special teams. So and that whole thing. But yeah, a really good, nice speech by him. Of course, he told he has 3 sons. So he told all 3. I think like his oldest 2. I know his oldest plays. Devin Jr. plays football as well, and I think he's already getting some approaches from like scholarships and such. And if you guys saw when he initially got enshrined into the Hall of Fame, of course he had his arm around his middle son, who said, "Hey, look, this is what you do when you work hard. You go to the promised land." So a really nice moment there from Mr. Hester, and a great speech.
Yes, and he talked about his family a lot, and he talked about the trials and tribulations that he had to go through. And just real quickly, again, before I continue, I recommend to you guys again to go to the official Chicago Bears YouTube channel, and they did an episode on Devin Hester, The Road to Canton, along with NFL Films, and it was a great episode which featured Lovie Smith and some of his family members. So I recommend you guys go check it out after you listen and watch our show. But back to Hester's speech, he mentioned of his sons, Lakina. I believe it was his middle son he was referring to. He said that, I know that you're getting some hate right now. You're going to have some haters come along your way, but remember, they're not hating you. They hate me because I'm coaching you, because I'm the greatest kick returner all the time. I thought that was a special moment. And not to get quote unquote too political on this show, but we talk about, especially in the Black America community, about the lack of fathers, even though is statistically 60% of black fathers are involved in their kids' lives. Devin Hester did shout out his stepfather who came in and
Mm-hmm.
helped raise him. I thought that was important as well. Of course, he gave as much love as he could to his mother, and rightfully so. But he shouted out his stepfather as well. I thought that was real key as well. But like you mentioned, you talked about Lovey Smith. It was great to see Lovey again, and he talked about the times that he spent in Chicago, and he gave. I forgot about this. He spent 1 year with Baltimore. I
He
remember the
did. Yep.
Seattle. Seattle was his last team before that with the
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta Falcons, where he broke the record of Deion Sanders. He did that in the Atlanta Falcons uniform. But
Mm-hmm.
he talked about his journey throughout his career. He grew up poor in Florida, and don't forget that Super Bowl where he had that kickoff return for a touchdown. It was right in his backyard in his hometown. We know what happened afterwards. We want to get into that, but it was a great moment. And I have a personal story to share with you guys regarding Devin Hester. I was working at Sporting News Radio, which is no longer exist, but their studios were north of Chicago, and I worked during the weekends. And my first year, it was during that Super Bowl Bear season, and I remember hearing about Devin Hester in training because you know me, I don't keep up with college football like that. But I remember hearing about him throughout training camp. Well, this guy could be something special. I said, I'm the guy like I want to wait and see what happens. Of course, his very first game was against the Green Bay Packers. He took a punt return for a touchdown. I worked that Super Bowl in studio here in Chicago. Remember, it was snowing as hell here in Chicago that day,
Mm-hmm.
and he took the opening kickoff back. I was working there, and of course, working on the old D and Davis show downtown on the old CSR. I had my buddy that I worked with here in Chicago, Chris Russell, who's doing great work in Washington D.C. on 10. I think it's Team 980 in DC now. And he's at now during the afternoons on Odyssey. But I invited him on the D and Davis show back in 2013. No one knew at the time, but it was Devin Hester's last year in the Bears uniform. They were playing the Washington at that time Redskins on the road. And lo and behold, that we talked about Devin Hester a little bit, what you expect from him. Of course, Russell gave his answer, but remember, Devin Hester that next day scored it turned out to be his last kick return for a touchdown
Mm-hmm.
in the Bears uniform. Of course, they lost that game, and of course, that was the whole during the whole Mark Trestman era, which was a mess. But I digress. But I was thinking about this morning, watching all the highlights. I said my career I'm still building now. A large part of it evolves around Devin Hester beginning in the end of his career here in Chicago, and he was it was a pleasure watching him. He was a joy to watch. He changed the game. Before then, my favorite kick returner of all time was Deion Sanders. He was must see TV, but when Devin Hester stepped on the field, you anticipated him to do something special. More times, more often than not, he delivered.
If you remember that Super Bowl that Tony Dungy, of course, the coach of the Colts at the time, he even kind of said like, "Oh crap, why did?" Probably one of the few times he actually was close to actually swearing, like, "Why the heck did we do
Mhm.
that?" But we'll see what happens after that. But yeah, really great speech. Another good speech, of course, Julius Peppers, the defensive end, of course, the first Carolina Panther to be enshrined. And I think for me, I think Julius, he shouted out, of course, all his coaches. Remember, Mac Brown initially recruited before he went to Texas. People forget about that. So he kind
Mhm.
of, yeah. So he recruited him there. Of course, it was all ACC. Then, of course, he went to Carolina. Did all they did there. Went to they like 5 or 6 Pro Bowl. Was all pro. I think he was tops in both the 20 the 2000 and 20 teens. So just a really great kind of like guy that kind of epitomized as a defensive end, and a very very sweet, heartwarming speech. Of course, he credited his partner for kind of like bringing up his kind of sort of like getting kind of like giving him a nice little correct career after football and some of his business ventures. So yeah, a really great nice speech by Julius as well.
Also, too, I want to focus on at the end of his speech, what he said that not everybody is going to play in the NFL. Not everybody's going to get to go up on the stage and speak like I'm doing right now. But he said, whatever you do in life, do it with passion, do it with consistency, do it with commitment, and you could be a Hall of Fame person. And you're like, well, what impact are you going to make to the next person, the guy in front of you, the guy next to you? If you're a Hall of Fame worker or a Hall of Fame person, you'll get recognized. And I thought that was very important. And of course, he shouted out Michael Jordan, who was sitting in the audience. And of
Hmm.
course, we all know that if you're friends with Michael Jordan, you're going to play golf with them at some point. I wonder how much money he took from Julius Peppers, but I digress. But people forget too. This I remember at the time. I know you're a college sports fanatic, Lakina. I know you remember this too. Remember when Julius was at North Carolina? He played basketball too. He could have been a heck of a basketball player if he stayed with b-ball. But of course, football took him to took him to the highest of heights. Of course, he doesn't have a Super Bowl ring, but he had a heck of a career, which landed him in the Hall of Fame. But he was a heck of a basketball player at North Carolina as well.
Yeah, I remember he said that Bill Guthridge, of course, who was took over for D. Smith, who was kind of like the bridge
Hmm.
between him and Roy Williams. But yeah, I mean, I remember that. Yeah, he did. Yeah, and he would have been play basketball. Like he always wonders if he had chosen basketball, what kind of path he would have gotten, but career path he would have had. But I think I don't know if he would have been had a Hall of Fame basketball career. But he was really good. He was a top recruit. So they were actually recruited to play both sports. Now, going to the rest of the non-Bears Hall of Famers list, as you listed, Second City Sports. At Sports Chicago, like Keenan McGee, Steve Brown with you. Patrick Willis was the guy I like a dummy. Was a tackle for the 49ers. He set an NFL record for the most single season tackles by a rookie, and went to the Pro Bowl I think like 5 or 6 times. He had went to the Pro Bowl as a rookie. Won Pro Bowl of the Year honors as well, and of course he would have a couple other Pro Bowls and a couple All Pros after that. And his story is very smart because if you don't know his story already, lost both his parents. It was him and his sister. He credited his sister for basically keeping each other on track because considering the neighborhood that they lived at, they definitely could have went to the wrong track. So.
Hmm.
You saw that, the rest of his family, his nieces and his coaches, and just another beautiful speech by Mr. Willis.
And I found it interesting that in the beginning of his speech, he lists the exact day and date of when he
Mm-hmm.
knew that it was over. I believe it was in
Yeah.
October 2014. Now, I
Yep.
believe his debut was back in September 2007, I should say, on
Mm-hmm.
Monday Night Football. So
Mm-hmm.
he said that, yeah, he really talked about his faith and how he believed in God and how that he was destined to do this and all the guys that talked about their personal beliefs in a
Mm-hmm.
higher power. And Patrick Willis was no different. Like you said, he mentioned about his sisters keeping him in line. Of course, all the inductees thank their coaches for going along the way. And we talk about this all the time, like especially in the Black community. It takes a village to raise a child. Which more of us in the community will get back to. I don't want to go on a tangent here too much, but
Mm-hmm.
it's really true. Like I said, we do some things by ourselves, but to reach to the next level, you definitely have to have help. And we can go on about ourselves personally. We'll do that another date, but
Mm-hmm.
we all have to have help along the way, and I think that's another important element that people need to pay attention to as well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, just like Well, speaking of course, a great speech by Mr. Willis. Another guy that was really he kind of found faith in college was, of course, Randy Granishire, of course, a former
Mhm.
defensive linebacker for the Broncos, the original Orange Crush from those 70s, mid to late 70s. Of course, Tom Jackson, who was another member of that Orange Crush, of course, long time NFL analyst for ESPN and for Countdown, introduced him in. Mr. Granishire said that it was really Woody Hayes. Because remember, guys, he played at Ohio State. He played at some of those great games against Michigan back in the early 70s, and it was for all his faults. Coach Hayes was a very religious guy, and he kind of found religion through that, and of course, he became one of the most dominant linebackers. And talk about somebody that should not have waited as long as he to get to the Hall of Fame. I mean, he was eligible for first year eligible, I think, 89, and look how long it took him to get to
Yeah.
this point. So and he actually even lobbied for some of his other teammates like Tom Jackson and some of the other members of the Orange Crush to get in, because the long before Elway and Shannon Sharp and that group,
Hmm.
and then Steve Atwater, those Broncos teams, they went to the Super Bowl a couple of times. Of course, they didn't win either one, but they were actually the class of the AFC for a while.
Yeah, and like you said, they set the foundation for their franchise to what they are known today. I didn't know anything about Mr. Garshari Lakina. I'll be honest with you, but I learned more about him as a person watching his speech. And P.S. It was nice to see. It was great to see Tom Jackson. He's healthy. He's doing well. Of course, I
Mhm,
learned about Tom Jackson's career. Watching those old NFL films features. Of course, him
mhm.
doing great work at ESPN for all those years and for nearly 3 decades. So that's how I learned about Tom Jackson. But Gardenshire, I learned about him more as a person through his speech and what kind of impact he did. And like you said, he did talk about um, uh, Coach Hayes at Ohio when he was at Ohio State. That you had to make a big impact throughout people's lives. It's not just about you; it's about helping other people. And you talked about using that same philosophy when you worked at a car dealership in the corporate part,
Mhm.
following his retirement. So I thought that was very cool of him to talk about, and it was the sort of message I hope people resonate with, with that part of his speech.
Yeah, just a really very poignant, very spiritual speech by him. And he said at the time, look, they didn't make millions of dollars then like they do now. And of course that's why he ended up
Hmm.
having to go to, going to car salesmanship and other businesses. And he actually did pretty
Hmm.
well for himself. So good for him now. Andre Johnson, well, if Bears fans were very vocal, Texas fans were very vocal to another first
Yes,
for
they
their
were.
franchise. They were very loud, and of course, the wide receiver still holds a lot of the receiver records there in Houston. But just a really, I think I loved his speech because he said, "Look, I am freaking." Well, he didn't swear to his credit, but he said, "I'm pretty freaking darn happy that he made the Hall of Fame because he didn't." He said himself, he really didn't think that it was going to happen, but the fact that like I said, he went to about three, he went to like about five Pro Bowls, and it was an All Pro, and just a really solid receiver to kind of put that Texans team on the map. A lot of those guys were there, including his teammate and now current head coach D'Amico Ryans.
Hmm.
JJ Watt, of course, you got to think his name's going to be, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer in a few years when he's eligible. So just a really, and those Texas fans were very loud. Like, you thought the Bears fans were loud? I think the Texas fans had them by a couple of decibels.
Yes. And Andre Johnson showed his true character because remember, he was not a me first guy when he played. He just went out and
Right.
did his job. And he said in an interview I watched last week that he wanted his actions to do the talking, and he lived up to his words. Of course, he had to speak obviously during his speech
Yes.
on Saturday, but he thanked everybody from. Remember, he played the last couple of years in a Titans uniform, I believe, and so. But he thanked the Texans organization as well, the fans in the city for embracing him from day one. And remember Lakina for a long time because remember the Houston Texans were an expansion team starting in
Yep.
2002. They didn't make the playoffs until a decade later. He did play in a couple playoff games, but by that time the Houston Texans weren't any. They were
Mhm.
good enough to make the playoffs, but they weren't a superpower team in the AFC. Remember Brady and those guys in New England were running it at the
Mhm.
time. But Andre Johnson suffered through a lot through those years. I think of him as a poor man's Isaac Bruce. The difference is Isaac Bruce has a Super Bowl ring. Andre Johnson doesn't, but it doesn't negate what Andre Johnson did in his career because not everybody's going to win Super Bowl. But he stayed true to himself, and his personality showed. And you could tell, like you said, those Houston Texans fans really appreciate it.
And I think he's definitely going to be the first of many from that group. Like I said, I think JJ Watt is definitely going to get in
Yeah.
first ballot in a few years. So yeah, like that kind of. It's unfortunate that they couldn't get to that, be able to get to the not at the very least get to out of that problem because, like you said, they Tom Brady and the Patriots had that AFC on lock for the most part during that time, and you
Hmm.
could probably even say to some extent to Peyton Manning and the Colts. We'll get to one of
Hmm.
his former teammates in a second, but yeah, just a really great moment. And like I said, he talks pretty good. I mean, I know he's a man of few words, but he didn't really
Hmm.
talk much when he played. But yeah, I think you could tell the joy in his face. They got into Canton. Now, speaking of former Colts, last but not least, Mr. Dwight Freeney. Of course, went to Syracuse. I remember I think no, he didn't play with David Duck. I think Manette had already left by the time he got
Hmm.
there. But he got, of course, won a Super Bowl, of course, with the Colts. Has three first team All Pro and seven Pro Bowls. Just one of the best defensive ends that you'll ever see. And of course, his former boss Jim Irsay introduced him. You saw Peyton Manning there. I think I saw him cry a little bit during Mr. Feeney's speech. Mr. Feeney's speech, and also, of course, Michael Jordan. Of course, they played golf together. They played golf for many years now. He, of course, if you guys saw, he helped during the delay, like Sid said, they actually showed the road to Canton and such, and he saw that Michael Jordan was actually one of the first people to actually surprise Freeney when he got the call, along with, of course, his fellow Hall of Famer, former head coach Tony Dungy. So just a really sweet moment, and for Dwight, and you can kind of tell just the joy and the relief, because he didn't think he was gonna. You can tell the relief. There was relief more than anything here in the case of him.
Yeah, he was one of the foundation members that set that foundation for those Colts teams when Tony Dungy arrived there in 2002 after Dungy was let go by the Buccaneers. Of course, Peyton Manning, you mentioned, who was there. They were a part of that movement. And Edgerrin James, too, who's a Hall of Famer now. And they were part of that. Yeah, they were part of that new era of Indianapolis Colts football. But I want to focus in on the end of that speech where he talked about his fiance he's about to get married to. And he said, I chased a lot of quarterbacks for 16 years. I could barely chase my 3-year-old daughter who has a remote control in her hand. I thought it was a nice, humorous moment. But he's like, I'm in the next chapter of my life. I'm raising my family. And it's great. I could barely chase my daughter now. He's like, the reason why he said that because I think about suiting up and playing one more time. I was like, I can't even chase my 3-year-old daughter around. So I was like, forget it. I thought it was a nice, humorous, beloved moment there.
Well, if you think about it, he actually looks like he can still play. I mean, he stayed in good shape and such. But yeah, like I said, 3-year-old daughter. Yeah, 3 years old. She might be a little bit of that thing too. He and his soon-to-be wife, maybe they should try to get her coming into get her training and start training for the Olympics right now, probably in track or something. So we'll see. But a really, like I said, a really great ceremony as usual. And Sid, guess who's eligible for their first year next year's Hall of Fame?
I think we talked about this a little bit on Friday, but Larry Fitzgerald, Antonio Gates.
Yep. Terrell Suggs. Terrell Suggs. This will be his first year being eligible. Alan Vinatieri, he's also going to be eligible for the first time next year.
I think he'll have to wait
as well.
I think he's going to have to wait. Talking about Vinatieri, he's going to have to wait.
Yeah, because you know how they do special team guys. Of course, Luke Kuechly as well. Aqib Talib, not lately, but
he's going to have to wait a long time.
Google's your friend, folks. We're not going to go
right.
And also too, Marshawn Lynch, and of course also Earl Thomas. Of course, you're both from the Seattle.
I think Marshawn Lynch is going to wait well. Only because if they elect him, we talk about Andre Johnson being a man in a few words. Marshawn Lynch, he's his own guy, in which we love that about him. But who would he think outside his family and teammates if he can talk?
He might just say, "Hey, you know what? I'm just here so I don't get fined. And good night, everybody." That's probably
exactly.
Good night, everybody. That's all he'll say. Like, yeah. They'll probably be the shortest speech in Hall of Fame history.
In pro football history, yeah.
Football in Hall of Fame in general history, like not just pro football Hall of Fame, but all of Hall of Fame.
I would love to see it personally, but I don't know if the committee's ready for that yet.
Maybe not. Also, Eli Manning is also eligible next year, first time.
I think he gets in, obviously, because even though his record is at 500, he did beat Tom Brady twice of both his Super Bowl rings. But if Eli Manning does wait, which I don't think he will, but if he does, do you think it's only 1 and 2 years? Because I think it'll be a short wait if he waits. If they make him wait.
I think 2 years tops, I think.
If they let him wait,
Yeah, I think Strahan was going to be want to be the one to surprise him. So you got to think that he's like, look, no, don't, no. So so very interesting. Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting, for next year's Hall of Fame. But a really great class in Delta by all.
Yeah, like you said, Fitzgerald will get in for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God. Yes, he really should. So, anything else before we go to break? We got a couple more minutes.
Oh, yes. So the Bears, getting back to the current state of the Chicago Bears, offensive lineman Tevin Jenkins suffered an injury in practice over the weekend. Of course, the Bears are preparing to play in their second preseason game next Saturday afternoon in Buffalo against the Buffalo Bills. Of course, we'll get more into that in detail in our next show coming up on Friday. But also too, tomorrow, 8 o'clock, I believe, Central Standard Time on HBO and HBO Max, Hard Knocks of the Chicago Bears will premiere in La Quina. I cannot wait. I know that the league cannot wait. The Bears fans cannot wait. Are you in high anticipation of this? I know we had to watch it because of what we do here, but even if we didn't do what we're doing now, would you still be highly excited to watch this 4-part document series?
Yeah, I mean, I might look at this just to be out of kind of curiosity. Who's going to be that guy that kind of comes out of nowhere and becomes a big star? Like I said, I think Colin Johnson's going to be that guy, considering what he did on Thursday, and just how much are they going to actually show Caleb Williams and Roman Dunze. Jalen Johnson, I know he's pissed that he didn't make the NFL's top 100 list. And I saw that yesterday. I'm like, look,
that's another storyline.
Well, no, and look, not that many players vote for that, so I think people need to kind of just chill on that in that front. But I digress. But yeah, it'll be interesting though. Like I said, I'll probably stream it because I have Max, so I'll probably just stream it and then not even worry about having to watch it live. But I will watch it before Friday. Don't get me wrong. But it should be interesting though to see like how much is shown. I know that they've been, for what we know from some of the people that we know that cover the team, they've been like kind of like the cameras have been very discreet, so they don't want to kind of like pretend they're not there kind of thing. So we're just to see like how much is actually shown and who does sort of like say something silly or does something silly or whatever.
Yeah, remember, folks, the teams control the content, not HBO, not NFL Films. So we'll see what happens tomorrow night. We talked about the stars who could be featured on there, like who's going to be a breakout stars. We talked about tight end Cole Kmet, the rookie punter out of Iowa. He may be a big star. Of course, Roman Dunze, the rookie wide receiver out of the University of Washington. Tyson Bagent, I think he's going to get some love, i.e. his father being a 28-time champion in strong arm competition. So, and of course, Montez Sweat is going to get love from the defense. And of course, the secondary, you mentioned Jalen Johnson with that him being pissed and not being named the NFL's top 100 players. And remember, he called his teammates in the secondary the Avengers. That's definitely going to be a major storyline as well.
We also got to be careful because some teams that you're going to be playing might use that as bulletin board material. So you got to be careful how you kind of present yourself. Like sometimes you just got to kind of keep things in house. So, but then again, we'll see. So you can catch, of course, Hard Knocks Tuesday tomorrow night at 9 o'clock on HBO. And of course, it'll stream on Max. So if you guys don't get a chance to watch it, don't worry. It'll be on. I'm sure Bears will have it on the YouTube channel, and if you got Max, you can watch it there.
And we'll give you our Cisco and Ebro review coming up on our next show on Friday.
Oh, also to a special note here, of course, wide receiver of the sensation for the Rams, Puka Nacua, injured his knee during practice over the weekend. Speaking of, and he is week to week. So if you're a Rams fan, you're hoping and praying that it's not too serious. And there's no ligament damage, so that's a good thing. But it's just very swollen. So hopefully he'll be good to go by the start of the season.
Yeah, he came out as a rookie last year, became the big target for Matthew Stafford in that passing offense for the Los Angeles Rams. Cooper Kupp is still one of the top receivers in the league, but Puka Nacua took his number one spot last year. So his health is key here if the Rams want to do something in 2024 and return to the playoffs, especially now with the retirement of Aaron Donald.
And they might challenge that Division 2 with the 49ers. So we'll see. They're definitely going to need him healthy as possible. Now, our number one in the books, our number two straight ahead, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Of course, we got some great news for the Olympics for the United States. Some surprises as well. Probably one of the better races that you'll ever see. And I got a bold tip for people who got a little bit miffed by the call. I'm going to talk about that after the break. Of course, Old School TV Monday. And, of course, coming up next, we're going to go to the Diamond. The Cubs, they're not finished yet. And the White Sox, the rest of the MLB this weekend.
Picking fights once again.
Okay. Sports of Chicago. Baseball talk coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
This
new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, the Monday edition, the first one for the month of August. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow Lakina McGee on the Twitter, X, and Kids Greg, and IG.
We have less than an hour left for this extravaganza we call the Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us as we talk Major League Baseball, both the Cubs and the Sox as well, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. I'm going to get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago live in living color right here on Roku TV.
All right, so let's go to the north side first. As the Cubs showing up, they're not dead yet. They've won 3 out of 4 against the Cardinals. It should have been a sweep, but I digress. Nice going, Nico Horner and the peak VC. Okay. 4-1. We won't go to that. But in the Sunday night baseball game, of course, since I watched a lot of the Olympic stuff already, I went ahead and watched the Cardinals Cubs, of course. A great gem pitch as usual by Mr. Brendan Steele. Mike Tauchman had another thing. He's had a great last few weeks. 6-2 to take 3 out of 4. They're still right there with this record. This is an NL wild card. You could have, should have, would have with that Saturday game, but it is what it is. But they still got a good shot to perhaps maybe try to gain even more ground. And look, you wish they were in a better spot, but look, they're let's see, they're still about 6 back of the Diamondbacks for that last wild card spot. Look, we've seen like weirder things happen, so hey, look, they still got a shot, right?
They do have a shot, and we talked about it last week about them struggling offensively, and especially coming out of the gates following the All Star break. But as I said last week, Ian Happ at the leadoff position, it wasn't going good. Nico Horner got that spot back last night. He went 1 for 5 with a run scored, and you like to see that more production from the top of your lineup. You mentioned Mike Taubman; he had the game winner early last week, and he continued his hot streak again when he hit a home run last night along with that catcher Miguel Amaya. He also went yard. But Justice Steele, as you mentioned, he was the key last night on the mound, pitching 6 2/3 innings with 6 strikeouts, excuse me, and 2 walks. He really kept the Cardinals off base, and the Cubs bullpen surprisingly has been very good over this last week or so, despite all the trades and whatnot. So, if you're the Cubs and you continue on this run, you still have a chance. But if they fall short again, like they did last year, being 1 game short of making the playoffs, you're gonna have to look back at games like last Saturday, and that's what's gonna keep you out.
And it's kind of like deja vu again from last year too. I mean, they had a couple of losses that they probably should not have had. They kind of cost them a spot. So you hope that maybe they can kind of get together. I mean, they do have the Twins coming up, and well, the good news for the Twins, they just got to go across town. They don't have to leave, so I guess that's a good thing. They start that series tonight, and they can probably perhaps maybe win. Win. I mean, sweep. I mean, ideally a sweep. Ideally, like I said, ideally. But again, if you can just win the series, just win 2 out of 3 against Minnesota. You got Kyle Hendricks. We'll see how he does. Will we get to see the good Kyle Hendricks this time? Of course, you got Mr. Shota tomorrow, and of course you got Sa to finish up that series. So I think they could win 2 out of 3, hopefully, and maybe make some inroads in that third wild card spot in NL.
Yeah, you have Javier Assad going against Joe Ryan for the afternoon game on Wednesday. So you would think the way the Cubs have it going on offense, they should take care of business against the Twins. The Twins are a good team. You won't see Joe Ryan in this series. You won't see Bailey Orber in this series. So you would think you could at least squeeze out 2 games. And as we said before, Lakina, just keep winning series if you're the Cubs. Their starting pitching has been the team's MVP all year long, and their starting pitching has not let them down. And so offense is finally starting to come around. They just have to be consistent. I know this is still a home run hitting team, but you got to take the pitches. The pitches are given to you. You don't have to swing the fences all the time. You just got to be smart, take your chances, and be smart on the base pass. And they've been doing that over the past week or so.
Yes, they have. Though we can get it all like gelling together, like on a regular basis. Hopefully maybe the Cubs can kind of perhaps maybe challenge that wild card spot because they got to jump over like 3 or 4 teams, but it's doable. We've seen weirder things happen in that division, so we'll see what happens there. Now, to the hopeful, to the hopeless, as the White Sox, of course, speaking of the Twins, they got swept by the Twins. They've now lost 20 in a row. Only 1 short of the record held by the 1988 Orioles on the AL side. Of course, the record since 1900 is 23. That's the 1961 Phillies. And I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think something nice to say. I can't really think of anything nice to say. I mean, like Steve Levy, of course, he actually faved my tweet, oddly enough. He said, wait, the Sox have lost. At the time, they had only lost like 15 in a row. But I told him, well, it seems like they lost so much more in a row. It just feels like 7 more weeks. Yay. 7 more weeks of this. City, you take it from here. Like, I can't. I've got nothing.
I'm not going to say that I'm not embarrassed, but it is what it is.
Are you like the Saints from back in the day, like the paper bag over your head? Are you that? Is it that?
I wouldn't actually put the bag over my head, but that's how I hate using this word, but that's how I feel sometimes. Even though I am a fan, and I'm not going to apologize for it, but it's a total embarrassment. I'm running out of adjectives, and we say this all the time. Looking as we've been covering sports for years, doing this for years. Winning is the greatest deodorant. When you lose, everything is exposed. And just a couple of things that I observed from over the weekend. John Shriven, taking my personal feelings out of him, even I met him twice throughout the season. Nice guy, but
Mm-hmm.
he brought up the report, i.e., the tweet from Shane Reardon, who I know very well. He's the
Yes.
executive producer of the Parkinson Spiegel show, the afternoon show on 670 Score, and he put out a tweet that a couple of guys in the Sox clubhouse told him that some of the players don't like manager Pedro Grifol and he may be fired by the weekend. Of course, that didn't happen, but John Shriver brought it up on Saturday's broadcast, and he says that's what that station does, just put out stuff like that. He got angry for like 2 seconds, and then went on to talk about. He was originally talking about Gavin Sheets, and now Gavin Sheets said that this club is still staying together, and blah blah blah. And of course, in yesterday's game, Andrew Benintendi had a brain fart in the outfield. Why is he still on this team? I don't know. And of course, the Sox showed up offensively yesterday, but
Mm-hmm.
you give up 13 runs. What else could go wrong, right? And then,
Yeah,
of course,
I mean,
yes, go ahead.
no. You finish up. You finish up.
Okay. And of course, I didn't mean to do this, but since the Olympics
Uh-huh.
were in reruns before the 5 o'clock news here in Chicago, I said, let me, and of course, I put out a sarcastic tweet following the loss yesterday. So I said, let me check in on post game live with Chuck, Ozzie, and Frank Thomas. And of course, Ozzie said, I guess he was saying it in jest, but we all know how honest he is, whether he's very serious or very candid and humorous. But he said, they picked Pedro over me. Now you can take that from a grain of salt.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be interesting. Oh my goodness. I mean, you can take that however you want. And we'll get to Mr. Parkes because could he be on the move from the Score? We'll talk about that in a bit here. But I mean, I look, I've got nothing. I mean, I really don't. I mean, it's one of those things where you just, it's really, you can't really say anything good about this team at this point. And I just, I,
I'm shocked you more speechless than I am.
you
And
would,
you're the
no,
Cub fan on this show.
well, yeah, I mean, well, look, I like both teams. I want both teams to do well, but the Sox, I mean, just as much. Someone actually posted a screenshot of the tweet from ESPN's Jeff Passan from like a couple years ago. You had all the guys. You had Dylan Cease, Eloy Jimenez, Michael Kopech. There were a few others, and just imagine a lot of those folks are not there anymore. Most of those guys, if not all the guys on that list, aren't even there anymore. So you're just like, remember, this was a time when people thought that they would actually compete, perhaps maybe win the AL, the whole AL.
Yeah.
So the mighty have fallen. There's really no
yeah,
surprise you can say at this point.
Yeah, how things crash and burn so fast. And is Pedro Grifol great at his job? No. But this is bigger than him. This is an organizational problem. And it starts with the player development. It starts at the top with Jerry Reinsdorf. No, he's not going to sell the team anytime soon. So miss me with that. We heard the chance the last couple of years talking about sell the team. He's not going to do that to maybe after potential work stoppage in a couple of years. But we'll discuss that down the road. But outside of that, the Sox cannot blame nobody but themselves. I know in certain departments of that organization, they have a level of arrogance that really came to bit them in the butt. And I thought not to give credit to too many people in town, but I was listening to Bernstein and Holmes on 670 Score here in Chicago earlier today before he went on there. And I thought both those guys brought up a great point, especially Lawrence. He brought up a great point about how, I'm just paraphrasing here, how the White Sox can turn certain players and certain personnel into different people. And Bernstein pushed back on when he came to Pedro. They discussed about Pedro Grifol, but they really dove in deep into Rick Hahn. Remember, Rick Hahn, if you saw his face when they hired Tony La Russa doing his famous press conference on the Zoom call, his face was dejected, like someone stole something out of his house. But when they hired Pedro Grifol, he was happy as you know what. But remember the story that came out within the last year or so. Rick Hahn wanted to resign right then and there when they hired Tony, and Reinsdorf said, no, you're not going to get another job if you leave. So he had to stay there. Of course, he got to witness the 2021 division title, but you tell he was not happy, and it was basically on his last legs, along with Kenny Williams as the president of the baseball operations for the White Sox. I think we coming up on in another week or two that their 1 year anniversaries of both of them
Yep.
being canned. So
Mm-hmm.
how interesting things have changed over the last 3 years, and us as White Sox fans and observers, we're going through it in 2017, 2018. You saw glimpses in 2019, the short year 2020. You made the playoffs. You should have won the division. You lost to the Twins by 1 game, but it happens. And then, of course, 2021, you hired the role manager. Even though you win 93 games and win the division, and you figure, well, we'll be back for get a couple of good shots at it, and things just have fallen off the cliff so fast it's not even funny.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago with Kingdom McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Yeah, all this White Sox talk is depressing me. So let's get to the good stuff that happened in MLB this weekend. Of course, let's go back to Friday night, which we got another no-hitter. By the courtesy of Mr. Blake Snell. He no-hit as they took 2 out of 3. The Giants did from the Reds, and he struck out 10 and threw 114 pitches. Hard to believe that's his first no-hitter, oddly enough. Mr. Snell, of course, a lot of us want him in the White Sox uniform, but again, I digress. But it was kind of like he did it very classy after it, and after all the celebration kind of died down. He kind of said that for all I'm paraphrasing what he said, like to all the haters that thought that he was done, and he got his first no-hitter, so good for him.
Yeah, and congratulations to him as well. I noticed that especially in the last probably decade, maybe decade and a half, at least in the last decade, that if you're going for a no hitter, if you reach that 100 pitch mark, managers will take you out. But and shout out to the Giants manager that to let him stay in there and complete his no hitter, let him throw 114 pitches, because unfortunately it's rarity these days that you let your pitchers go all the way, because they're also normal. When we were growing up looking at all of a sudden over the last 15, 20 years it started to change.
Yeah, Bob Melvin said he really wanted that for him, so that's why he kept him in there. I know there were some people some of the other coaches thought that maybe, are you sure? Because he's already been past 100. But he said, no. Look, it's Blake Snell. He got this, and he did. And of course, De La Cruz, flew out. So I think even he kind of like gave a little bit of an applause for that. And I think he even says some really nice things afterwards. So I mean, look, the Giants. I mean, look, could they perhaps maybe make it? They're right there. I think in the wild card. So, but they took care of business against the Reds. Winning 2 out of 3, and really. Again, congrats, Mr. Snell, on the no-hitter. Hard to believe that's his first, but, lately. Yeah. So strange things happen like that sometimes, unfortunately, in baseball.
Yep. Let's go to the American League. Of course, the Baltimore Orioles and the Cleveland Guardians had a 4-game weekend series. Both those teams ended up splitting those the 2 games. Cleveland won the first 2. Baltimore won the last 2. Lakina, looks like Baltimore's offense is back, and your guy, Eloy Jimenez, 5 and 6 with 2 RBIs in that series.
Yay!
And he's not playing the field. He's DH at full time.
He's not. Yeah, they're not going to put him in the outfield. They
nor
are not.
Should they?
Exactly. So look, 5 out of 6. I mean, look, 4 RBIs, not bad. Maybe look, this is the reason why they brought him on. Is like he kind of like the cleanup guy, if you will, for the Orioles offense, was already stacked to the 9. So should be interesting to see, especially once they play the Yankees. It's going to be interesting how it goes. They're still both of them are still tied as we're recording this again. they can't get away from each other.
No, they cannot. Speaking of the Yankees, they take care of the Toronto Blue Jays over the weekend. Of course, Carlos Rodon looked good in his last couple of starts before his last start in that Toronto series. He pitched well, and the offense is starting to come through for the Yankees. They still have a little problems in their bullpen, but I think they'll get straightened out. And I think the Yankees will still make the playoffs, but they're going to have a fight on their hands with Baltimore in terms of the AL East Division title.
Yeah, I mean that's. I think it could come down to when they start playing each other. I feel like because look, both teams are having some sort of issues in some form, and neither are perfect. So it's really going to come down to like that. Who can kind of like? Will it be the pitching of the Yankees? Will it be and the hitting, or will it be the hitting and the pitching of the Orioles? Which one will mesh? Will come out on top at the end? We still got a few more weeks before we can figure that out.
Yeah, staying in the AL East, the Boston Red Sox, they take 2 out of 3 from the defending world champion Texas Rangers. They win the first game 11-6 before losing last Saturday 7-4. Of course, they wrapped up the series down there in Arlington yesterday by beating the Rangers 7-2. Boston's a sneaky team. Do I see them taking the division? No, but they're right in the thick of it in the wild card.
They could definitely make things interesting there. But yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be interesting to see, like you said. I mean, I said the Red Sox kind of like a slightly better version of the Cubs. I mean, they can kind of
Yeah.
once you think they start figuring things out, they have inexplicable losses and to teams that they shouldn't have lost to. So, it's gonna be interesting to see these next few weeks because it does get a little bit tricky for Boston on their schedule coming up.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. Lakina here with you as we talk the best and worst from MLB from this past weekend. Let's go to the AL West. It's a battle between the Houston Astros and your side piece team, the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners could not complete the sweep yesterday as the Philadelphia Phillies beat the Mariners 6-0. But Seattle takes 2 out of 3. They still lead the Houston Astros by a game and a half, I believe. But on the flip side, we'll start with Philadelphia. 4-11 since their All-Star break. If you're a Phillies fan, are you panicking?
Not yet. I think. Look, they've had some injuries, and this is like the tough part of the schedule. They actually play the Dodgers starting tonight, so it doesn't get any easier for them. So this will be kind of like a little measuring stick series. I mean, could we be seeing this same matchup in the playoffs coming up in a couple of months? We'll see. But look, I mean, Zach Wheeler, he has to get it together. The hitting's been inconsistent. I think even Bryce Harper even apologized to the Phillies fans a couple of times last week. But yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about the Phillies just yet. Like I said, they've had a tough schedule. I mean, they actually been playing against some of the teams they should be beating. So losing 2 out of 3, I'm glad they did get that rubber match series because it would have been bad had they gone to Los Angeles and after being swept by the Mariners. But yeah, they really need to get it together on that side, especially on the back end of the batting because Nick Castellanos needs to get it going. A lot of guys on that hitting besides Harper and Schwarber need to get it going there.
Sticking in the AL West, I mentioned the Houston Astros. Hopefully, our guy Brandon is listening. The Astros had a tough weekend, losing 2 out of 3 to the Tampa Bay Rays, including an ugly 1-0 game yesterday in the series finale.
They had like 7 guys on base or something like that, so couldn't get guys across. I mean, that look, the Cubs could have done that, but yeah, same thing with Houston. I mean, look, this is the kind of thing that can come back to bite you in the butt. I mean, they could get in. They're still right there for the wild card, but you're still right there in the top for the division. So it'll be interesting to see if that series loss comes back to bite them.
All right, let's go to the NL Central. Milwaukee lost 2 out of 3 in our nation's capital to the Washington Nationals. The Pittsburgh Pirates, Paul Skeens, their rookie star pitcher, their all-star pitcher, was on the mound yesterday. They had a 4-0 lead and lost it. Paul Skeens pitched 5 and a third innings, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks. Pittsburgh had a 5-0 lead, but lost it in the end as the Arizona Diamondbacks come back to take the series finale yesterday, 6-5 in 10 innings to take 2 out of 3 in Pittsburgh. Couple things on this series, Lakina. Paul Skeens, I think he's been figured out a little bit as the team's starting to figure him out via the scouting tape. And the Arizona Diamondbacks on the flip side, MLB best record of 19-3 since July the 3rd.
Yeah, that's and also too, Carroll and Marte. I mean, those guys are getting it going. So we saw what they did against the Cubs a couple of weeks back at Wrigley. So they're starting to kind of showing why they got to the World Series last year. It's probably too little, too late in the NL West, but they're definitely right there to think about it in the wild card, and hopefully they can kind of keep it. Hopefully they can keep it going.
Yeah, in the rest of that division, you mentioned the San Francisco Giants take 2 out of 3 in Cincinnati. Of course, the Cubs take 3 or 4 at Wrigley Field against the St. Louis Cardinals. To the NL East we go. The Atlanta Braves had a tough weekend, Lakina. They split their 4-game series against the Miami Marlins, losing the last 2 games. The New York Mets, they're having a tough time out there on the left coast against the Anaheim Angels. And of course, we mentioned the Washington Nationals. They take 2 out of 3 at home against Milwaukee.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. Like I said, that I'm not worried about the Phillies just because the other two teams in that division are very consistent. So, that's going to be interesting to see. I'm not worried. Like I said, I think the Phillies still has that division. Can the Braves and the Mets or the Mets make it interesting? Sure, but I think if you were to tell me like which team do I believe in that can pull it out, I still say it's the Phillies. I'll take the Phillies all day.
I agree with you as well. Going to the NL West, the Los Angeles Dodgers in a rematch of the '88 World Series. For those of you who don't know what we're talking
Brother.
about, go look at the Dodgers highlights, official highlight tape here on YouTube. The late Tommy Lasorda has some words for the press, and I'll leave it at that. But as far as this year's regular season series, the last time the Dodgers were playing that garbage dump, which the people turned into a dump, but I digress. But the Dodgers take 2 out of 3 from Oakland this past weekend after losing the series opener last Friday. The Dodgers dominate Saturday's game 10-0, and they win a close one 3-2.
Well, this was definitely a classic case that they thought that they would kind of just, waltz in and, in Oakland and just, bad ballpark or not, they thought they were just going to run over it. That didn't happen. Now, Saturday it did happen. They dominated 10-0, but they did have, a close one late in the rubber match. But yeah, I'm not worried about the Dodgers. Freddie Freeman, he got some good news about his son. He's been released from a hospital. He's doing better. So, hopefully that's a good start for his recovery. But yeah, I mean, they definitely really get it going here. Kershaw needs to be a little bit more consistent. But they definitely need to find some more pitching because, yeah, they really need, because especially if they don't want to get out of there late. I mean, should be back soon, so hopefully they can kind of get it going.
Yep. And the San Diego Padres take 2 out of 3 at home against the Colorado Rockies. They do what they're supposed to do. The
got
offense
revenge,
that exploded yesterday, winning 10-2 in their series finale.
Yeah, because then they lose to the Rockies the last time they played. They lost their series, so yeah, it's kind of like a little bit of payback there. And look, I know our buddy Herb Lawrence, that's his adoptive team, so hopefully they can get it going and be a little bit more consistent. Sorry, Herb, but you agree on that, so hopefully it can kind of like be consistent more.
All right, some of this series as we get to the schedules for the series that will start this week for the next couple of days. Here's the schedule for today. New York Mets will play the St. Louis Cardinals later today as part of I believe this was a makeup game from early in the year. Arizona will stay on the East Coast. They'll take on the Cleveland Guardians. An interesting series there. The Cincinnati Reds will play the Miami Marlins. San Francisco will head to our nation's capital to take on the Washington Nationals. The Battle of Texas is on once again as Houston will visit Texas to take on the Rangers. Minnesota, as Lakina mentioned, they'll come here to Chicago via probably the Greyhound bus and take on the Chicago Cubs at the friendly confines. Boston will stay in the Midwest. They'll play the Kansas City Royals. Let's see what the Royals are made of. Brady Singer, their surprising starting pitcher, will go against James Paxton tonight. Of course, the White Sox, they'll continue losing. I'm sure they'll take on the Oakland Athletics. Remember, historically, the Sox struggle in Oakland. Maybe for the watch, Lakina. I'll predict this right now. Watch, even though this is the Sox last time they'll play in that dub in Oakland, watch they'll win this series. Watch they'll win this series. Watch as a tribute to that dump in the Bay Area, the White Sox will take 2 out of 3. Watch they'll happen. Put this on tape and archive it, will you?
Some of it archive that. Oh gosh.
Yeah, and of course you mentioned the Philadelphia Phillies will stay on the left coast. They'll take on the Los Angeles Dodgers starting tonight.
For those who are one of those last two games, Mitch will be on MLB Network as part of the Sunday regional coverage. Of course, I'm assuming here in Chicago they can go get the Phillies and the Dodgers. So maybe that's a good game for all you White Sox fans. This to finish off series that starts tomorrow. San Diego and Pittsburgh. That should be interesting. Series Baltimore and Toronto. We'll see if they can get it back going there. Milwaukee and Atlanta. Minnesota, of course, and Chicago. Second game of that series. The Mets and the Rockies. And Detroit and Seattle. And also, too, same day with Philadelphia and Los Angeles and the Dodgers. Those two games will also be on MLB Network on the regional coverage tomorrow.
And the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim will travel to Gotham City to take on the New York Yankees. And that's your schedule for MLB for the next couple of days.
Oh, and speaking of the Angels Yankee series, the second game of that series will be on Prime Video on Wednesday. So now Prime Video, they're kind of getting back into they're getting into the baseball thing as well.
That's the Yankees broadcast for those of you living in the tri-state area. And for those of you that have the MLB package like I do, you'll get to watch that game 90 minutes after it's airing.
Also, Padres and Pirates, the third game of that series, the second game of that series will be on FS1 at 5:40 on Wednesday as well.
All right, and that's your schedule for MLB for this upcoming week.
All right, Sid, let's go to Paris as the Olympics. Of course, some great performances, including one of the best.
USA.
Yeah, USA is doing very well in the medal count, of course, including a race that is probably one of the better races we'll probably have seen in history. A little bit of sports media news because is one of our friends of the show. Could he be on the move? We'll find out soon enough. And also to old school TV Monday and so much more. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago, the Olympics, and more coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, the Monday edition, the first one for the month of August, right here, live in the Living Colon Sports Soul, Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. This is our last break of the show for today. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. If you want to follow, you'll shoot you via the social media on the Twitter, X, and the IG. You can follow me at CK80. Once again, it's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Keaton McGee on the Twitter, X, Lakina's going to IG.
Let's talk about these Olympics, Lakina. Before we get to what happened yesterday, I'm watching it live right now. This is round one of Heat number 6. Nora Lyles of the United States wins it at 20.2 0.19 seconds. This is the men's 200-meter run. Whoo, that young man can fly, Lakina. I know that he didn't place well in the World Championships in the other events the year before, but what he's doing right now is amazing. We talked about this before the Olympics too, Lakina, how some people say, oh, you need Kayla Carr to boost up ratings, blah, blah, blah. As we told you guys a few weeks ago, we're going to have some named stars, some unnamed stars that are doing great things. It's going to capture America. Noah Lyles is one of them.
And this actually is better event than the 100. We'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, this is a better event, the 200. He's actually the defending champion here. So he didn't do well in the Olympics, of course. He won bronze. But I mean, just amazing the fact that this is actually his better event. Trying to do the double, the first American, tried to be the first American to do double since, of course, Carl Lewis did it 40 years ago back in the 84 Olympics in Los Angeles. Of course, he'll be the first to do it since Usain Bolt, who did it twice. So yeah, I mean, he is definitely on his way. He definitely got a couple of guys of his fellow American teammates, going to be challenging him. Of course, you got to think there's going to be a Jamaican sprinter out there that's going to be challenging him as well. But yeah, good start for him and a much better start than he did in the 100. That's for sure in those early rounds.
Yeah, as you mentioned, let's talk about the 100-meter race yesterday. That's the best 100-meter race that I've ever watched. And I told you before we started recording, I watched it live yesterday. I watched it besides the White Sox, inside of the White Sox game. Thank goodness I did. But Lakina, it was a great race. You had Thompson from Jamaica, who I thought was going to win. But before that race, Lakina, I don't know if you caught the semifinal. Thompson barely beat Noah Lyles in the semifinal. If you saw the replay, Noah Lyles looked back at him in a friendly way. It's like, okay, I'm going to be here in the final. It's going to be me and you at the end. Of course, they embraced each other and all that. But he looked at Noah Lyles, looked at Thompson from Jamaica. He's like, I'm going to be right by your neck and neck, my brother. It's going to be on in the next race. But I kind of like that nice rivalry there. Hopefully, both those guys can compete in the Olympics in 4 years here in America, in Los Angeles. That'll be great. I think that's the next rivalry, if you want to say, in track and field. But getting to that 100-meter race yesterday, it was a close call, a great race. I thought that Thompson was going to win. I thought it was Lyles or Curley was going to take the silver, but it was a close race. I thought if you watched it in real time, Lakina, I thought Thompson won, and Lyles was right there like a fraction of a second behind him. But once the folks went to replay, Noah Lyles got his clavicle shoulder in there just before Thompson did, and he won the race. And you saw the celebration. And I thought it was a great moment yesterday. Noah Lyles went up to the Saints and hugged his mom, his sister, and his girlfriend. It was a beautiful moment. It was a hell of a race. And I watched that thing again at least 5 more times because I couldn't believe what I just saw. Folks, I know we talk about basketball. We talk about gymnastics. Why people, especially people that look like you and me, talk about track and field? This is the reason why we put track and field as one of the top events. This is the reason why what happened yesterday in the men's 100 meters. Mic drop.
Yeah, by a chin, as they say. So he definitely did that whole thing with leaning in. Of course, look, to everyone's credit, look, I think everybody there maybe thought that Thompson had won. Everybody thought. Look, I know people got on Lee Diffie, does a great job doing. He's been doing the last couple of Olympics. Of course, Tom haven't did it for a long time. But look, he was just doing what we all saw. We all saw that.
You cannot blame him for that.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah. They did edit during the primetime coverage. You guys saw the primetime coverage last night. They did clean up a little bit. Yeah, Otto Bodo, of course, he has a couple of these medals himself. He has 4 or 5 medals from the various sprinting events he did back in the day. But yeah, he said it was a photo finish, and look, you saw his reaction, and he'll like, oh hey, look, and look, all that talk, you thought that you could say he's Laz is cocky and arrogant, but he backs it up, and I think that's what they. And especially now with this win, he'll never let folks hear the end of it because he saw we went through asthma. He has dyslexia, ADHD, among other things, and the fact that he's allowed an Olympic champion could go for the double in a couple of days. Tomorrow I think the 200 meters finals tomorrow on the men. But yeah, just a really great race, probably one of the better races to see in the Olympics, and just literally like 5,000 of a point, I should say, 5,000. That's how close it was, and everyone was like, and from top to bottom, first through 8th, it was like 0.013, 1,300 of a point. So a second, I should say. So yeah, it's literally seconds seconds, literally.
And shout out to, I know he's a forgotten man and all this, but shout, and we won't forget him on Second City Sports, and we'll shout him out right now. Shout out to Fred Curley, who I thought it was going to get the
Not at
silver.
all.
He takes
Yes.
the bronze, and he had a great time as well.
Yeah, second straight time he wins the bronze. It's actually the second time. Well, of course, Lyle's winning the first time since 2004. This is the first time that two American men have been to the podium since then as well. So lots of history remained on the track last night, and even more history, I'm sure, coming up, of course, with Lyles in the 200. Gabby Thomas, of course, we talked about her a couple of weeks back during the trials. She's in the 200 as well for the women. That's starting right now as we speak. So really great showing by the U.S. there. And staying on track, shout out to Mr. Ryan Krause and Lukovic. This is the third straight time they've gone 1-2 in the hammer throw. And look, he was kind of unknown when he first came on in 2021 with COVID and all the circumstances. He wasn't 100%, but he made it through. Has had a lot of injuries and still was able to win gold. And of course, Lukovic is a good friend. They go back to back. First time that's happened at 3 straight times, the 3 straight Olympics. So, but yeah, really great showing by him last night. And gymnastics. I mean, what more can you say about Simone Biles? Is there anything else you can say? I know she won a silver.
Like I said last week, I run out of adjectives for her.
I mean, she won a silver. Look, okay, the Rebecca Andrade, look. Shout out to her. She went through her own issues with injuries, had 3 ACL surgeries and such, and whatever, and such. She deserved that gold, but you can tell that Simone was not 100% if you saw what happened during the both of the beam. But the fact she won 3 gold medals, I'll take her on a bad calf and pretty much every freaking gymnast out there. Mic drop.
We talked about her. She suffered the injury. You saw her calf being poked out last week. Before the floor exercises and the other competition sets in the women's gymnastics last week, and she did a heck of a job. So you can say, oh, that's just her body giving in, blah blah blah. But like you said, with all her accomplishments, she's still the greatest female gymnast of all time, and that's nothing you do to take that away from her. And she's just like all the other girls from not just on her team and from other countries as well. They're giving it their all and they're trying their best. That's all you can ask for. You're not going to win everything, but they're giving it their best, despite these circumstances.
Yeah, and also shout out to Jordan Childs as well, who actually they actually had to do a review of her floor routine. She actually ended up, they actually recalculated, and she ended up winning bronze. So good for her. Everything she's went through. Suni Lee, unfortunately, she got a bronze there with Simone in that vault. So we talked about her various physical issues she went through. Good for her. Jay Carey came back and won a bronze as well in the vault. Of course, Suni, of course, won in bars. But just a really great showing by the gymnastics, of course. I love this guy, Robert Novacek, who is became a cult figure for the men's side. Of course, led the helped lead the men to bronze. He actually ended up winning another bronze, and his especially with the pommel horse. So he's coming, extending his cult status, if you will, yesterday. And we'll get to the pool in a second, but guess who was there today over at the gymnastics, Sid?
Tom Brady. I saw it on social media.
Yeah, and I mean, he was in awe of what Simone and what she's done, even on a bad calf. And she, you saw him took pictures with her teammates. I think he took a picture with her too. I think they did meet, and I would be surprised if Jordan Childs tried to shoot her shot at him. And I can't. I can't blame her for that. That good on you, Jordan, if you did. But yeah, a really great showing by the women's gymnastics team. And look, look, I know Simone said that she kind of let the door open for her to come back, and perhaps maybe going to Los Angeles. But I can't see her coming back, Theo. Can you?
No. If she wants to do it, fine, but I just don't see it. Yeah, what more? I know you're on American soil. I think that's the only angle we can draw from.
Right.
But outside of that, what more do you have to prove? She has nothing else left to prove.
It'll be interesting to see. I know she kind of let the door open a little bit, but we'll see what happens there. And going to the pool, of course, shout out to Miss Kayla Decky, who did the sweep. She now has 13 medals in general. She won. She swept the 800 and the 1500 again. More superlatives. You can't really say anything about her. We'll see if she comes back. She's still young enough. She can still come back and swim in Los Angeles in a few years if she wants to. Also, Bobby Fink, of course, won back-to-back gold medals
I saw that one live. He was out ahead of everyone. You talking about
Just-
total domination? That was it.
Total, and I could tell he was really miffed about because he just lost the gold in the 800 because that was his defending champion there as well. But yeah, he was gonna usually kind of like just let it build. He just dominated from start to finish and broke a world record. Amazing. Tori Huss, she had a great Olympics. She has 3 gold medals. She was anchor in the mixed relay. They broke the record there. This is only the 3rd or 4th Olympics they've had that. But also too, yesterday she was on. I think she was on the 3rd leg, and the women won the 4x100 meter medley relay. So a world record fashion. So she had a great Olympics. The men, they lost on the men's side for the first time, I think, like since 1968. Of course, outside of the 1980, of course, when the U.S. boycotted, they did like their first loss in an event in 10 Olympics. I mean, other than Fink, not a good showing by the men. Hopefully the future's a little bit brighter for the men coming up. But with Caleb Dressel, he did what he could. But yeah, only can wrestle 2 silvers. So, but yeah, still a solid showing there. They did beat Australia. That's all I think most US fans care about.
Yeah, and also too, real quick before we get to the basketball, shout out to the co-eds men's and women's USA track team. I watched the 4x400 meters.
Oh,
I know
yes.
they had the goal in their sight, but they lost it at almost in the near photo finish. They took the
Bowl.
silver. Yeah.
Yeah, Filka Bowl came out and like literally out of nowhere, and she just
The Netherlands took it at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, if Sydney the Block and the Horn, I mean, if she is the one person that can challenge her in the 400-meter hurdles, and she is there, so gonna be a nice battle between those two coming up later this week. But yeah, still a good showing by the United States. I think Shamir Moore actually went to Limboom actually, so good for her. She has a silver in her first Olympics. So, but still, look, these things happen sometimes, and sometimes, unfortunately, the Americans on the other side of it, unfortunately, at times. But yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, what a shout! I want to shout out a few gold medalists for the men and women real quick. Kristen Faulkner, who's from a small town outside of Anchorage. She didn't take up cycling until she was after college. She's actually she works at a hedge fund company, and just didn't really start learning how to ride a bike until she finished college. Came back, was actually an alternate, came back and won this the road cycling event for the Olympics. They go from the Eiffel Tower, they go around and then they go back to the Eiffel Tower, and she pulled away, and just a great moment for her, and just an amazing. Also Vincent Hancock, who, if you guys know the name, if you're a skeet shooting person, he's won the last 4 gold medals. He won the gold there once again for the third straight Olympics, I should say. He also won mixed team ski shooting with Austin Smith. So he's got 5 medals in general, 4 of them gold. So I want to give a shout out to him as well.
Watching the Olympics. If you're watching us on YouTube live, I have my monitor on NBC5 here in Chicago. The women's 200-meter results in the semifinals. Of course, the lone American, at least in this heat, Miss Mackenzie Long, she took 3rd place at 22.30 seconds. So she missed it by a 1/10 of a second to favor Philly of Nigeria. So Miss Long missed out on the qualifying, but I think through time, she'll advance on to the next round. I know she was celebrating, so I think she'll move on to the finals later on tonight. And so that's the update on the women's 200-meter.
Yeah, Julia Anfo, who is now the 100-meter women on the women's side. She is a world indoor champion. She ran at Texas. She's from St. Lucia. You saw the launch party on Saturday when the women's 100 happened, and look, there's the kind of stories you hate that when Americans lose, but you see stories like hers, came from a small island, only 200,000 people. I think they only said 5 athletes in the Olympics. You like seeing stories like that when, she is also one of the favorites in the 200, so she could definitely give Gabby Thomas.
Yeah, Gabby Thomas is coming up next with her semifinal heat. So
yeah, should she make to the final? That's that might be a tough one for the United States. She might do the double as on her front, but even still, you see these kinds of stories there in the Olympics. So that's I also want to give a shout out to Urosova Mukochina from Ukraine. If you saw her story, of course, the war going on there, she's the defending world champion. She won the gold in the women's high jump. So really sweet story. It kind of like I like seeing those type of human stories too, and the human element of that's what makes the Olympics so special.
Yeah, that's why we watch it, right? So it's all
exactly.
about we all have our own story, overcoming obstacles. That's the story of life. So what do you do in adversity? And that's why we celebrate the Olympic Games every 4 years.
Now on to hoops. Now, the U.S. women. Well, we'll start with them first. They had to come back and beat Belgium, but they're in the quarterfinals. They're in the knockout stage, and they should be okay. But they do need to concentrate on that 3-pointer, because that 3-pointer, if anything kills, it's going to be that 3-point shot or lack thereof. So that's going to be kind of like the wild card here for the women, I feel like.
Yeah, I watched it yesterday, Lakina, and like you said, that their defense did turn up. Kelsey Plum,
Yes.
and she helped in that charge. Brianna Stewart as well. No, her and AJ Wilson did not have great games offensively yesterday. They did in that game last Thursday against Belgium, but yesterday they did beat Germany. I'm trying to find the score here, 87-68. Like Germany did come out on fire early. I didn't know they had a couple of sisters on the team. I'll say that, but those are the ones that actually played well. But I thought that they would feature Brittany Griner a little bit more. They didn't for some reason. You mentioned the USA women's team. They struggled shooting from the outside, but it was really their defense what really kept them in the game, and actually they pulled away. I think from the second quarter on, the United States women's team, they were the better team. But that first quarter, Germany came out on fire, and they had the USA women's team back on their heels. Overall, USA shot the ball 48%, 46% from three. But like you said, Lakina, they have to keep shooting it at a more consistent pace, especially from the outside. And the turnovers, USA had at 16 for the game, but they turned it over a lot in that first half, and it was unacceptable. I don't know what was said in that locker room, but the USA came out a much different team in that second half.
Yeah, they're gonna have to get it together, because they play Brazil coming up on Wednesday in the knockout stages in the quarters. So I'm sure they'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, it's not. Look, like you said, so they got players on the team from all over on the Germany and Spain and Belgium. So yeah, they're gonna get a little bit of a push. So it's not gonna be as dominant as it's been. So and I don't want to hear people say, "Well, Caitlin Clark." No, stop. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. But
thank you.
Yeah,
leave her alone, folks. Leave her alone.
She's
now.
She's enjoying her. No, I just want to say she's enjoying her break. She's enjoying her break. She's chilling, and I'm sure she's fine with that.
Right. And she'll be ready to go within the next week and a half when the WNBA gets back from this Olympic break. Now over to the USA men's basketball team. They defeated Puerto Rico 104-83 last Saturday morning. I watched that entire game. Lakina, not to nitpick, but you need other guys on the USA team to step up, like Steph Curry. He hasn't had a good tournament so far, only averaging 7.7 points per game. He did hit a couple of big shots early, but he struggled from three-point range. I know he's shooting it overall at a 26% clip for this tournament. LeBron James did his thing. He's picking his spot. He was picking his spots, but it was Anthony Edwards that led the way, especially in that second half. He had 26 points overall.
Yeah, had a couple of nice little dunks too. That little windmill dunk. Ooh, that was
really
good going into the thing. But yeah, I think this is what you do. Of course, you got the Kings worked out a little bit, and they had a little bit of slow start as well against Puerto Rico, but then they kind of kicked into gear. Still trying to play around with different combinations and such. So, but unlike the men have been around with each other for a month. I mean, the women have only been around with each other for like a couple of weeks. So that's kind of put us out there. But yeah, I think they play Brazil tomorrow, and
2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on USA.
Yep. So they should be okay there. They get the I believe they get the France and Canada winner, if I'm not mistaken. If my I don't have the bracket in front of me, but I think that's who they play next. Should they get out of that game against Brazil tomorrow? It's going to be a little tough. Now Serbia and Australia, that's going to be an interesting matchup as well. Australia has struggled a little bit, so that's going to be interesting. Germany too. That men's side in Germany looks really good too. So unfortunately, South Sudan did not make it. Northern Puerto Rico, but yeah, I think it's kind of set for the U.S. We might be seeing a Serbia USA final Sunday. We'll see. But
I wish it was Canada, but like you said, we might have to meet them on Thursday, but we'll see about that. And the women's national team, the women's basketball national team, the USA women's national team, they'll take on Nigeria on Wednesday. That's at 2:15 on USA.
Yep. So you guys definitely got some hoops there as well, and of course, for all your Olympic coverage, of course, you can go on Gold Zone. I gotta say, I watched a little bit of that Gold Zone with Scott Hansen and Andrew Siciliano. They actually mesh really well together. So
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
kind of crazy that of course, but yeah, that's one of the great spots. Another great coverage there for. But also, if you want to go on, if you got Peacock, you can go on there, watch all of the coverage you want, and of course, on the various NBC networks. So yeah, the Olympic coverage, you get another full week of it. So enjoy some. You got like more diving, track, volleyball. I know the Americans on. I think the American men they in the indoor side they play Brazil in a little bit. So if you guys want to
Yeah, I
check
saw
that
the
out,
ladies team. They moved on. Talking about the outdoor volleyball, they
yes,
moved on
yes.
yesterday, beating
Oh
Italy. I
yeah,
did see it.
yeah,
I
that
did
was a
get
really
yesterday.
great.
It was a close one, but they won, and so they move on to the knockout round. One more quick life update in the women's 200-meter semifinal number 2. Gabby Thomas, she finished first. She's an automatic qualifier. She won at a 21.86 second clip, so she's going to go on to the final in the women's 200-meter.
Should be should be a fun final coming up a little later on, and that I think it'll be like about 3 o'clock. I think our time.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, on the big NBC network. Of course, if you want to wait till prime time, you can do that too. But if you're one of those folks that don't want to wait till 7 or 8 o'clock, you can watch it there. But like I said, you can watch it anytime. Of course, right there on the NBC family networks, so NBC USA, I think Telemundo in Espanol, and other networks. Of course, you can stream it all anytime on Peacock.
And the women's 200 final, one more update. Lakina Brittany Brown from the she's in the next heat in the semifinal number 3 heat. She's coming up next for the U.S. So let's see if she can make it into the final.
Hopefully, we can get 3 Americans in there, and of course, maybe we can kind of get a couple.
And one more
there.
thing, shout out to Mike Tirico. Who's done a great job for NBC Sports. He explained the rule yesterday. If you guys were watching live,
yes.
After that Noah Lyles race. Explaining the rules of how they judged on how he won instead of Thompson of Jamaica. He did a great explanation yesterday, so I want to give shouts out to Mike Tirico.
And keeping up with that 100-meter thing on the men's side, if you see that great Getty image, I don't know who did that from Getty Images, but they did a beautiful job of how close it was, all 8 runners, and how fast it was, how it got from the start to finish. Got to Noah Lyles literally winning by a chin. Literally.
Yeah.
So if you guys it's everywhere now. So if you guys don't check it out, please, because that's a beautiful image.
That's gonna live in infamy forever.
Give a raise whoever made that.
Yes.
That person deserved the raise. Good for you. Good for you. Whoever Getty Images made that. Good for you.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Yeah. And that person should retire immediately if they get paid.
I'm saying mic drop. That's their mic drop. That's their mic drop. Here you go. Great photo. Yes. Mic drop.
Yeah. All right, Lakina, any quick sports media news? I know we're starting to run up against it, but one friend of the show who's making headways here locally in Chicago on radio may be getting this opportunity somewhere else.
Yeah, this news came out over the weekend, of course, if you believe the sources. Fox Sports, of course, Skip Bayless ended his run over at Fox Sports. And there's the rumors are that they're saying that Nick Wright, not Nick Wright, not the friend of the show, but Nick Wright could be the new face of that network on the debating side, and also too Denny Parkins, that of course our buddy, we had him in studio. Of course, he was speaking at the Illinois Music School at the old State Street campus a few years back, and he. Of course, he went out, sub for Colin Cowherd for a couple of days, and could perhaps maybe having his own show. There might be moving to Los Angeles perhaps as well. And well, look, Danny's been around a long time. Of course, he worked all over. Of course, he's worked in Chicago for the last few years. Spiegel and Parkers, of course, with Matt Spiegel. That's one of the top shows, not just sports radio shows, but top shows in all of Chicago radio. And excuse me. And it'll be interesting to see if they do decide to offer him a job. Could he be on the move? Have his own show on Fox on FS1 by the start of next year.
Remember, Colin Cowherd's contract is up early next year as well. I know on his podcast, I'm talking about Colin's personal podcast at The Volume, that he talked about he wanted to move back to Chicago so he can have an opportunity to go to more games. I know he said that him and his wife love the city of Chicago. He knows about the winters, or now mild winters over the last few years here in this city, but we'll see what happens. I think it depends on what FS1 does with Colin. I know, like I said, his podcast, The Volume, has done very well. I watch it, and he does puts out great work But I think whatever happens to Colin, I think the dominoes will fall there. Like I said, I don't think Nick Rocket is going anywhere. I know that show. First things first, I watch it every once in a blue moon. I know that show got extended to 2 hours now. They're on from 2 to 4 Chicago time on FS1. So it's him, Chris Broussard, and Kevin Wild. So that show is doing very well. So I don't see them changing that. But if they want to give Danny Parkins his own show, I think it's going to depend on what they're going to do with Colin. Can they have both of them on there? I think they can, but I think if you read between the lines, I think it's going to be one or the other. I could be one of the strangest things that happen in this business, but I think it's going to come down to what happens with Colin, and the dominoes will fall from there. Because I know Danny Parkins just had a child recently over the last year or so. I know he settled in with his wife and family. So could he be on the move to Los Angeles, or could he operate out of here in Chicago? And there's a lot of potential moving parts here.
Yeah, because they do have a big studio there, so I wonder, like, could they maybe perhaps where else, like, he stays in Chicago, just does a show on FS1? Could he do both? Could he do a podcast for FS1? So a lot can change, and well, this is definitely one of those to be continued type of deals. So we'll see what happens.
Yep. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. Lakina here with you as we wind down this Monday edition of the program, the first one for the month of August. Anything else, Lakina, before we do the shortened edition of Old School TV Monday?
No, I am good. Go for it.
All right. Around this time, we should do a special segment called Old School TV Monday. I'll try to keep this kind of short. This documentary was made available over the weekend. I watched it on YouTube. It's called The Carter Effect. That's right. The famous uninterrupted original documentary that came out in 2017 about Vince Carter. It was directed by Sean Menard. Of course, the uninterrupted company is owned by LeBron James's people, Maverick Carter, and of course, it was directed by Sean Menard. As I said before, it covered the impact of Vince Carter in Canada when he was still playing for the Toronto Raptors for the NBA. The film was shown at the Toronto International Film Festival in 2017, and of course, it got rave reviews. Also, who appeared in this documentary was Tracy McGrady, his cousin Steve Nash. Now, the late great Commissioner David Stern, and Toronto natives, rap producer, Director X, and of course Drake. Him and LeBron James have been buddies for a long time. Of course, it documented the career of Vince Carter when he was with the Toronto Raptors from his rookie year in 1999 through the 2000 Slam Dunk Contest until the day he got traded from Toronto to New Jersey. And of course, they talked about also the impact of what Vince Carter meant to the whole country of Canada. Now you see a bunch of players in the NBA who come from Canada, like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Jamal Murray, Kelly Olynyk, and the list goes on and on. So I thought it was a great documentary. I didn't get a chance to see it a few years ago, but I got a chance to watch it over a weekend. It's available right here on YouTube. Just type in The Carter Effect documentary. It's exactly 1 hour long. You will not be disappointed. Also, his mother, talking about Vince Carter's mother, is in the film as well. I don't know if you got a chance to see it, Lakina, but it was a great documentary.
Because originally it was released, it was only released in Canada, so that's why you couldn't find out. I actually found it during shutdown, so I actually did watch it on YouTube. So I thought, okay, because I watched his, and also too, of course, we talked about Luke Longley's documentary as well. But yeah, I mean, just how much of a cult figure he was up there in Canada. Because remember, Canada basketball wasn't really a hotbed in Canada at the time. So,
no, it wasn't. It's a hockey town.
Yeah, you had hockey, of course. Track started to kind of come on a little bit. They had a couple of track stars as well. So when both the Raptors and the then Vancouver Grizzlies came along, it kind of opened up a whole new generation of basketball players, like the you guys you mentioned. So Vince Carter kind of became, like you said, they had posters of him all over the place in Toronto. The CN Tower, he actually rang the bell at the CN Tower for they had their old little stock exchange there, so he actually rang the bell there a couple of times. And they actually even did an interview with he was a prime minister at the time. He just started becoming prime minister, Justin Trudeau, and he said that how much of that impact that Vince had on how more young guys started playing basketball. That's why you're seeing this influx of guys playing in college, here in the States, and the NBA as well. So just a really great doc. It's very quick. I was like, wait, it's over already? That's how fast paced it is. So you really don't. If you got an hour your time, check it out on YouTube. It was probably one of the better ones you'll see.
Yeah, and also they talked about. I remember watching this game in college. They talked about not only the Game 7 performance
Mm-hmm.
against the Philadelphia
Yep.
76ers, well, went by hand because maybe he attended his college graduation ceremony
Yep.
hours before the game.
Uh-huh.
They talked about
In North
that, and also,
Carolina.
but this game I remember. I think it was back in late January, early February of 2000 when Toronto made their debut on NBC. They played the Phoenix Suns and they won.
Mm-hmm.
Vince dropped 51. I remember I was in
Yep.
college. I watched that.
Yeah, I remember that game very well. So you heard his Hall of Fame speech that what a big impact that being in Toronto had on on his career and and also he became a better I guess he became a better person playing in Toronto and that he's still beloved there. He still actually has a house there, I believe. So yeah, I mean that was just a much of a big he's about as famous as Wayne Gretzky. That's how famous he is up there in
Yeah,
Toronto. That
yeah.
just figure that out.
Yeah, and also too, I remember the first few times that he will come back to Toronto as a member of New Jersey Nets. They booed him, but when he went to the Vancouver Glaciers, I think this was in 2011. When he
Mm-hmm.
finally came back, they gave him a video tribute, and he started crying, and
Yes.
they
Yep.
showed that in the film. Spoiler alert, a little bit, and
Yeah.
he finally got the love that he so richly deserved.
Yeah, and
They didn't wait
that's
until he retired.
yeah. Oh, well, yeah, I'm glad about that. And of course, I'm glad he got in the Hall of Fame as well. And like I said, cult status, I guess, over there in Toronto. I think they still have his billboard up there, and then up there in Toronto, and I think they even had a sandwich named after him as well. I'm okay, but those Canadians, those silly Canadians, but yeah, I mean, look, it's a great documentary to see. Like I said, it's very quick. You won't see an hour if you got an hour at your for your day. It's quick. It's it's fast paced. It's like
Yes.
it's one of those blink you miss kind of documentaries. That's how it's quick. That's how fast paced it is.
Yeah, you'll learn the history about the Toronto early history about the Toronto
Mm-hmm.
Raptors as well. Most of the stuff we know because we watched it, we lived through it at that time. But for those of you that are younger, you'll learn the history about the franchise as well. So for Old School TV Monday, we salute the Carter Effect documentary about Vince Carter, produced by LeBron James's Uninterrupted Company. One more update, Lakina, before we go. In the women's 200 meters in the third semifinal, Miss Brittany Brown of the U.S., she wins it overall. She qualifies to go on to the next round. She wins it at a 22.12 second clip. All right, so that comes to our end of the show for today. So if you want to follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG, you can do so at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. You can follow Miss Lakina McGee on the Twitter at Keena McGee. Once again, at Keena McGee on the Twitter X. Don't forget to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms of Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are located on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support. Please catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. And don't forget, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago's programming besides Second City Sports. What's Up, Cuz, the Smoke Fellas, and all our special programming. And of course, Shauna and Maya in the morning on Roku TV. That's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can catch Sports Zone Chicago and all the programming that we have going on for you guys right now. So celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV, and we always will provide. So for Miss Lakina McGee, I am Cindy Brown, aka Sid the Kid, for Second City Sports and for Sports Zone Chicago. We will see you on Friday. Until then, holla!